Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 7 of the 2023 Tour de France. It's going to be the third day for the sprinters to have a chance at a victory here at the Tour de France. Now, they had chances on stage 3 and 4. They took great opportunities there. We saw Jasper Philipsen win in stage 3. Then we saw Jasper Philipsen win in his second stage on stage 4 of the Tour de France. Well, this is stage 7, and the sprinters are interested to try to take it all the way to the line. So if you slept in, you didn't miss anything at the beginning of this stage 7, because we saw 4 riders, once the Peloton hit kilometer 0, attack right away, and then 3 of them sat right up. That means we had 1 rider left up front from our KSM6. That's Simon Girmay. Girmay gets on the race radio to talk to his director sportif in the car. The director sportif must have said, hey, we're a French team. This is the Tour de France. Let's just go solo. So Simon Girmay puts his head down and starts driving it. First team's on the back there to start pulling is going to be Lotto Destiny, and they're going to have a little bit of help from Alpecin de Koenig. So we got 2 teams chasing, 1 guy up front. Nothing happened from 170 kilometers all the way into about 85 kilometers to go when we get up to the intermediate sprint competition. Besides that, through that whole section, really there was 4 guys on the side of the road there making the human bicycle, and that was the only thing worth getting out of bed for. Now we're coming up to the intermediate sprint competition. Now things get a little lively. Peloton starts going curb to curb. We know Alpecin de Koenig, they want maximum points because Jasper Philipsen's wearing the race leader's sprint jersey here at the Tour de France. Up front, Simon Girmay, whose time had been extended out to about 7 minutes, is dropping fast just before the intermediate sprint competition with the Peloton getting nervous. Simon Girmay will hold off everybody back there and get first, but second place points is massive. So Alpecin de Koenig's going full gas, and then Biniam Girmay comes up from the right side as the Eritrean beats Jasper Philipsen across the line to get second place points, and Jasper Philipsen third. We'll see those 2 do a fist bump here after intermediate sprint competition. So you know everything is peaches and roses there between the 2 riders. But will it be that way at the end of today's stage 7? Well, that's worth waking up and getting out of bed for, because it's going to start getting exciting. Now, 4 or 5 kilometers later, we see 2 riders attack. That's Nans Peters there from AG2R and the Total Energy riders, Pierre Latour. These 2 riders go up the road, and they'll catch Simon Girmay pretty quickly to make 3 riders in the front here on stage 7. Behind, it's Tim de Klerk, the tractor for Soudal Quick-Step Riding. And Alpecin de Koenig won a shot at another stage victory here at the Tour de France, so 2 teams are riding, keeping the 3 in check at about a minute. With 40 kilometers to go, they're coming up to the only KOM competition here in stage 7, and this is when Simon Girmay's legs start to fall off. The KSM6 rider drops out of the group of 3, and that'll leave 2 riders up front. The Peloton started getting nervous at about 50 kilometers to go. Here, going over the top of the KOM, they're still curb to curb, and the pace is starting to pick up. 2 riders in front are holding about 40 seconds to about 50 seconds there on the Peloton, as we see the riders back there in the Peloton getting super nervous and curb to curb with 25 kilometers to go. We get under 15, same thing. The gap up to the 2 riders is down about 30 seconds as the Peloton's starting to storm. We'll see Jumbo-Visma on the front, and we see UAE Team Emirates through the final of this stage 7 riding up there, but Tadej Pogačar normally only has about 1 teammate with him, while Jonas Vingegaard has a host of riders around him going full gas in the front of the Peloton. Under 10 kilometers to go, Jumbo-Visma got things under control at the front as they're drilling it, and the 2 breakaway riders only holding about a 10-second gap. 7 kilometers to go, Jumbo-Visma still driving fast, and look, there's Tadej Pogačar. He's a 2-time Tour de France champion. He's sitting right there on Jonas Vingegaard's wheel. This is what I was saying about stage 3 and stage 4 here of the Tour de France. When UAE Team Emirates, Tadej Pogačar was riding about 70th, 80th in the Peloton. Now we see him right up there in a position so that if something happens, hopefully he avoids it by riding on Jonas Vingegaard's wheel. Or at the very least, guys, if something does happen, most likely it'll happen to Jonas and Tadej Pogačar at the same time, so he won't lose time to Jonas Vingegaard if he's staying on his wheel. Fantastic tactic here from Tadej Pogačar of UAE Team Emirates to stay close. 5 kilometers to go. Jumbo-Visma still on the front. They got a classic specialist team, let me remind you, with Dylan Van Barle, Christophe Laporte, and of course, Nathan Van Hooydonk, who's driving it on the front of the peloton. As they come just under 5 kilometers, or somewhere around 4.5, Alpecin de Koenig start getting in the picture. They're driving it hard, and then Christophe Laporte goes back to work with just under 4 kilometers, about 3.8. Christophe Laporte's driving it. The finish of today's stage, it's going to be a narrow, technical, lots of obstacles, lefts and rights, so it's going to be crazy hard, and that's why Christophe Laporte is trying to hold Jonas Vingegaard into a top position here late in this stage 7. Now, if I back the film all the way up to just under 50 kilometers to go, that was Wout van Aert at the back of the peloton there, because he doesn't want to do any work on today's stage. He wants to take a day off after that mammoth ride on yesterday's stage 6 that I'll get to at the end of here. Once this stage finishes, I'll give a little detail on it. Now, let's go back up front, because Christophe Laporte's keeping Jonas Vingegaard out of trouble and drilling it. He'll do that up to about 3 kilometers to go. Things start getting nervous, and it's bunching up all over the place. You see they're coming out of the right turn there with Christophe Laporte, and you see all the obstacles in the road, the center island there with the blocks. It's getting interesting. Christophe Laporte will pull a little bit longer, and then Alpecin de Koenig will take over at the front. They got a problem. It's 2.5 kilometers to go, and only 3 riders on the front. That's Jonas Rickard. That's Mathieu van der Poel, who's been putting on a lead-out show here at the Tour de France, and the whole season of 2023. He's been marvelous, probably the best lead-out man in the business at this point in time, but maybe not the most tactically astute, but certainly the strongest, best guy. If I was a sprinter, I'd take Mathieu van der Poel every day of the week in 2023, because he's been amazing. But 3 guys with 2.5 kilometers to go, they're going to run out of gas. There's no doubt about it. So let's look a little bit back behind there, the 3 riders of UAE Team Emirates, and we'll go back to Jonas Vingegaard there, and then look just behind him. Well, that's Søren Kragh Andersen from Alpecin de Koenig. He's going to thread the needle past the race leader here at the Tour de France as he goes through the right and just around Jonas Vingegaard. Now he's going up the left side, and the road's super narrow. Look where he's at the left, and then look over to the right. There's one more Alpecin de Koenig rider at the right, and 3 on the front with Jonas leading it. Only problem, like I said, with 3 riders at the front for Alpecin de Koenig, they will run out of gas, and everybody knows it. That's why we see Søren Kragh Andersen flying up the left side. Jonas Rickard up front looks back. He sees Søren Kragh Andersen coming, so what does he do on this narrow road? Slides the bike over to the right. That'll open up the gap just a little bit on the left side. Søren Kragh Andersen will shoot the gap coming up the left, jump on the front. Now Alpecin de Koenig have 4 riders on the front with 2.2 kilometers to go. They're drilling in at the front. We look back, Caleb Ewan's in a pretty solid position, but it's mad chaos still back there behind the Alpecin de Koenig train. He's got Dylan Groenewegen there pretty close by. We look a little further back in about 25th position. That's Cavendish there, and Biniam Girmay, the Eritrean. Now, those guys are getting a little lost back there, but there's still some time, because we're just about coming under 2 kilometers to go. 1.7 as it's going coast to coast there on the side of the roads. We look, it is Marco Morkov on the front for Pseudo Quickstep. Only problem for Michael Morkov, he doesn't have a sprinter, Fabio Jakobsen, on his wheel. He looks back, sees Fabio Jakobsen's a little bit stuck in the back there, so he's going to go up and push a little bit over to the left. He's hoping to open up a gap. This is the difference between Michael Morkov and between Mathieu van der Poel. Van der Poel's doing everything with power. Okay, he's new to the sport, so I'm going to give him some rest, some ease up here, right here on the butterfly effect, because Mathieu van der Poel has power all over the place, and we've already seen it here at the Tour de France. Michael Morkov is trying to do things with a little bit of tactical and a little bit less power, because he doesn't have it. So when he's trying to move over to the left, he's trying to open up a gap so Fabio Jakobsen could have something happening back there to possibly open some kind of little trail so he can get closer to the front. It doesn't really work out for Fabio Jakobsen, but it was a nice try. Now we go back up front. Jonas Rickard starting to take over from Søren Kragh Andersen at 1.3 kilometers to go. Still a bit far out, but still close enough to where you might be able to do it. Jonas Rickard's going full gas. He's got everybody hurting back there as he's going on the pedals and pulling Mathieu van der Poel and his sprinter Jasper Philipsen. He'll go all the way into about 900 meters to go, and now things are going to get super interesting. Because look, as we see Jonas Rickard pulling off hard right, looking left, well, that's Bora Hansgrohe. That's Danny Van Poppel. Danny Van Poppel is the lead out man for Jordi Mayus, and Jordi Mayus is just a little bit behind him as Danny Van Poppel comes over the top of Matthew van der Poel. Matthew van der Poel slots off of his main guy, Jonas Rickard there that was leading them all out, and he'll slot right behind Danny Van Poppel. Danny Van Poppel starts sprinting full as hard as he possibly can. I don't know how wise it is to be leading out Matthew van der Poel with Jasper Philipsen on your wheel, but he's going to do it anyways. We see Danny Van Poppel going full gas, and he'll pull into about 600 meters to go. Once he starts pulling off, things are going to get interesting right now. We're going to need a lot of time to explain right around 600 meters to go because Matthew van der Poel's starting to go at the front. Look over to the side. That's Trek Segafredo there. That's Stuyven and Mads Pedersen, who's won stages at the Tour de France already. We look a little bit further back on the left side. Well, that's Jaco Alula right there. Luka Mezgits and Dylan Groenewegen, his sprinter. He's coming up the left side. Trek Segafredo's got two guys there. Then we got Matthew van der Poel that's starting to go full gas. Once he starts going full gas, Stuyven's going to drop off Mads Pedersen. Mads Pedersen's going to go off the wheel of Stuyven's, and then he's going to bump Caleb Ewan. He bumps Caleb Ewan. Ewan goes over and bumps Jordi Mayus. Then as Mayus is getting bumped, guys, take a look at this picture. It's spectacular. Jordi Mayus is trying to not hit his teammate, Danny Van Poppel, who's coming off the front of the group. Now, once he bumps his teammate, Danny Van Poppel, if you watch the video and not the picture I'm showing you, his bike wiggles. It wiggles like this left and right all the way through, and somehow Jordi Mayus keeps the speed up at 69 kilometers, and now that's how fast they're coming into the finish here with 600 meters to go. Up front, Matthew van der Poel's going full gas. He's taking Jasper Philipsen on his wheel and going all the way into about 400 meters to go. Then let me back the film up again because the Eritrean Biniam Girmay, he was stuck on the left side of the road when Matthew van der Poel started his hit out there for Jasper Philipsen. And Caleb Ewan, along with Stuyven, started dropping back and opened up a gap for the Eritrean who was stuck on the left side. He's going to shoot that open gap and go all the way from the left to the right. We back it up a little further behind the Eritrean, Biniam Girmay. That's Mark Cavendish. Somehow Mark Cavendish was back there with the Eritrean in 25th spot with about 2 kilometers to go. And now he's up here with a shot of breaking Eddie Merckx' record here on stage 7 of the Tour de France. Matthew van der Poel is going full gas. He's going to go all the way into about 350 meters to go. Then Matthew van der Poel's going to go hard left. This was a little bit tricky. I don't understand why he's going quite left when the road's bending right to the finish. But you do know his legs are starting to fall off because you see the group pushing from behind. Now Matthew van der Poel goes all the way to the left fencing. Look over to his left side. That's Mads Pedersen that's getting cut off from Lidl Trek as he sees his chances of winning today's stage 7 going out the window. Go over to the right, though, with about 300 meters to go. Mark Cavendish has started his sprint. Now, let me back you just a little bit back up before Mark Cavendish starts his sprint, though, because Jasper Philipsen from Albacete de Koenig sitting second on Matthew van der Poel's wheel there. As Matthew van der Poel went left, Jasper Philipsen followed him. This was wise. It was about 350 meters when Matthew van der Poel started going left. That's too far for Jasper Philipsen to win today's stage 7 if he jumps at that moment. So he follows Matthew van der Poel's wheel over to the left. Matthew van der Poel's dying, and finally he looks over to the right there at a sprinter, Jasper Philipsen, thinking, you got to go. But this is the difference between a strong lead-out man and an experienced one like Michael Morkov. Morkov would know just to stay in the road, stay over to the right side, and know that he needs to get into under 300 meters to go or Jasper Philipsen is going to get beat on today's stage 7 because it's the best sprinters in the world here at the Tour de France for stage 7. Now, with that idea of Matthew van der Poel going to the left, that means Jasper Philipsen had to follow him. He did, but the problem is it opened up the road all the way on the right side of the road, and that's why we see Mark Cavendish coming full gas, Biniam Girmay coming up the middle. We see Jasper Philipsen, he looks right over his shoulder. He sees the Max Missile coming full gas, but no one can stop Mark Cavendish except he's going over the crossing there on the street. There's a little bump. He comes off the bump with about 275 meters to go. And look, he almost drops down onto his handlebars and skipped a gear. Biniam Girmay sitting just to the left side of him, and Jasper Philipsen sees it and starts moving all the way over to the right side to get on the Max Missile's wheel. When he does, he pushes Biniam Girmay all the way over to the fencing. Now, let me back the film up all the way to stage 4. Remember stage 4 when we were on the Nogaro circuit and the stage was coming down to the finish, 400 meters to go? It was Albacine de Koenigs, Matthew Vanderpool pushing hard onto the Eritrean left, pushing him out to make room for Jasper Philipsen to win that stage. Now it's the sprinter, Jasper Philipsen, pushing Biniam Girmay. Is he going to be happy about this? I don't know, but the Max Missiles going full gas with about 150 meters to go. 100 meters to go, Jasper Philipsen starts his sprint. He's coming up the left side there of Mark Cavendish with 50, 75 meters to go. They're side by side, just under 50 meters to go. Jasper Philipsen's got the solid lead here as Cavendish is looking left, watching his stage victory here to beat Eddie Merckx's record disappear as he slipped the gear not once but twice. His words, "I was only able to catch when he went over the bump and slipped his gear," but he said he happened twice. And if I back it up, just before Jasper Philipsen started his sprint, you see Mark Cavendish looking down, and I think that was the second time he skipped the gear, because we see Jasper Philipsen going full gas by Mark Cavendish. Jasper Philipsen sits up about 10 meters before the line and celebrates with three stage victories here at the Tour de France. But look in the picture, Biniam Girmay, the Eritrean, he's not happy about any of this, and he's starting to complain already. The Max Missile man, Mark Cavendish, will have to settle for second here on stage 7 of the Tour de France. But second for Mark Cavendish with chain slips, he looked fabulous in today's race. The Eritrean, Biniam Girmay and Jasper Philipsen, when they came together and the Eritreans put all the way into the fence, guys, I honestly think I would have relegated Jasper Philipsen and not given him today's stage victory, and I would have given the stage to Mark Cavendish, who would have broken Eddie Merckx's record at the end of today's race. Now, I don't think Cavendish would want to break the record this way, but when you look at it, it looked pretty hard how Jasper Philipsen put the Eritrean all the way into the barricades, and we're talking about with 175 meters to go, maybe 200 when he did it, and he has a straight line all the way into the finish. Now, there wasn't any drama on the show, so the officials didn't see it, and nobody called it. But by the rules, when you're talking about 200 meters to go, and you got a straight line to victory there, I think you got to hold it, and the Eritrean might have gotten bumped and could have possibly been good enough to beat Mark Cavendish, especially when Cavendish skipped his gears not once but 2 times here in the final 100 meters before stage 7. Guys, it was a fantastic sprint finish. If you have time, go back and at least watch from kilometer 10 into the finish of today's stage. I didn't do it justice. It was narrow, it was technical, twisty. Bodies were bumping off of each other all over the place. It was a spectacular finish here to stage 7 of the Tour de France. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next edition for stage 8 of the Tour de France. Any of you guys that still want to stay for a little bit longer, let's talk about some of the tactics that happened on yesterday's stage 6 of the Tour de France. I told you guys yesterday Jumbo-Visma were big-time knuckleheads, but I also told you I liked their plan. I loved the early part of their plan, hated the way it finished on yesterday's stage 6 here at the Tour de France, and the way I would fix it when we go back and look at Col de Aspen, when Jumbo-Visma really started pulling hard there with Laporte, and you had Wout van Aert in that front group, that was fine. You get there on the Tourmalet. I love the way they did it on the Tourmalet. I would have done it the same way until Jonas attacks. That part I still like. Once you can't drop Tadej Pogačar by the top of the Tourmalet, Jonas Vingegaard should have known, shut off the gas. Have Wout van Aert come back. Wait for Sepp Kuss, Wilco Kelderman there to get back on. Have your climbers next to you, so when you start the last climb, the Cambasque, when you start that climb proper, you have a couple guys to really push the pace hard. Now, you already pushed the pace going up the Col de Aspen. You pushed the pace going up the Col de Tourmalet, but you didn't drop Tadej Pogačar. So now you let it come all back together. Who cares about what riders are going up the road? You're not interested in the stage victory. You're interested in putting the final nails in the coffin to Tadej Pogačar. So you haven't dropped them by the top of the Tourmalet. You back off. 2 best climbers in the race start coming back, Wilco Kelderman, Sepp Kuss, and now you got 3 riders there with Wout van Aert to help out Jonas Vingegaard. Wout van Aert drops down the descent the whole time and pulls in to the last and final climb here with 16 kilometers to go. He pulls a little bit up all the way until we get into 5 kilometers to go. Then you put Wilco Kelderman on the front. You drive it as hard as you possibly can. Full sprint, 200, 300, 400 meters max. You let the American Flying Eagle Sepp Kuss take over from Wilco Kelderman. Drive it as hard as he can. And that hopefully will put the nails into Tadej Pogacar's legs. And then Jonas Vingegaard goes to work. Instead, like I said yesterday on the butterfly effect, when we look back at stage 11 of last year's Tour de France, Jonas Vingegaard did the same thing Tadej Pogacar did by pulling the Slovenia around all day long. They reached the last climb there, the Cambasque, and when they did, you got to imagine that Wout van Aert's legs had to be tired. So if I take you all the way into the bus and explain those same details that I gave you yesterday on the butterfly effect, that's where they really had the problem with the director sportis at Jumbo-Visma. There's no way Wout van Aert can get Tadej Pogacar under pressure going up the last and final climb because his legs are going to be so tired. But if they had waited for Wilco Kelderman and Sepp Kuss again, maybe Wilco Kelderman and Sepp Kuss could have drilled it so hard with 5 kilometers to go that Tadej Pogacar would have been hurting, and then maybe Jonas Vingegaard throws in attack and can drop Tadej Pogacar. Ifs, ands, and buts and whatevers, but that is a possibility and the best way to play out the tactics. That way you try to drop them going up the Col de Tourmalet. If it works, great, you go with Wout van Aert. But even if it had worked with Wout van Aert and you drop Tadej Pogacar back there, what's going to happen? UAE team members are going to get on front and start pulling with 3 of their riders. Most likely Ineos will jump in. Most likely the race leader's yellow jersey with Bora Hansgrohe, Bookman will start jumping on the front. So then Wout van Aert has to hold off at least 3 teams back there chasing with probably 5, 6, 7 riders on the front. I don't think Wout van Aert could have done it, so you would have just wasted more energy at the front versus you wait at the top of the Tourmalet, get your climbers back, and then light it up on the final climb. Maybe Jonas Vingegaard can dislodge Tadej Pogacar. Maybe Tadej Pogacar was too good. But at this moment, Tadej Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard are on the same level form. And so you need all the tactics to be perfect at this year's Tour de France, or whoever makes a mistake, like last year's 2022 Tour de France with Tadej Pogacar, is going to lose this year's Tour de France. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next edition real soon.